Hey guys, I wanted to show you my Adams Arms piston gun that I had picked up a little while back, so here it is. Now, basically a little while back, Bud's Gun Shop had what they had considered to be factory blemish models from Adams Arms, okay? And usually these things retail for about 750 to 800 or so. They were actually marked down to 600 because they were considered factory blemish. Now, I really don't care too much if, a rifle, carbine, what have you, especially an AR-15 at that is, it comes with a few nicks on it, okay? Now, with that in mind, I did go over this in pretty high detail, and as you can see, it actually still looks very, very clean. That thing just popped open. This is under a little bit of tension. That's one thing I have noticed, but anyway, I have gone over this, and, I really have not been able to find anything, that has really had me concerned. I did find a few minor, and I highly stress minor nicks, but I honestly forgot where they were because they're so small. And given that I did take this to the range already, anything that I do have could just be from me, honestly. So with that in mind, I mean, it still looks incredibly clean. So as you guys can see, now this is a piston model, okay, obviously. And there are a few concerns that people have with piston guns. Now, one thing is that that they're heavier, and some piston guns do come from the factory pretty heavy. That's not really the case with this, or at least with this model. Now, naked without any optics or iron sights whatsoever, just as it came to me from when I went to go pick it up, for my FFL. It actually only weighs in at 6.2 pounds, so it's very lightweight for being a piston gun. It's actually very comparable to a direct gas impingement AR-15. So I do not see the weight to be an issue at all. Okay. The other issue is that because it's a piston gun, and there is really no standardization among piston guns, that if it comes down to it, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find parts for it. And you know what? That is a very valid concern to some degree. I mean, even the barrel itself, it has to be, you can have it fitted to the piston system itself, but I believe there's a little bit of extra work that has to go into it in order to have it fit with the piston itself. But I'm not entirely 100% sure what exactly that is. So, and the other thing, as far as parts, things like that. Yeah, the parts are slightly different here and there. A lot of them, most of them actually, are very much interchangeable with your standard AR-15. But there are a few things that are proprietary, okay? And given the fact that, there are actually a few different designs out there for piston guns, that is a very valid concern. Now, I do want to take a second to point out, though, that the Adams Arms piston system itself is actually a lot more common than people realize, okay? For one thing, I have seen a few other manufacturers use the exact same design. I do believe it was Adams Arms that came out with it first, but I have seen other companies, make upper receivers and, even complete AR-15s that do use the Adams Arms piston system. Companies like Holdra Arms and, Stag Arms with their piston Model 8 are just a couple of examples. So, not only, I mean, it is a piston gun, but it is, a little bit more common than people realize, I think, and that's something that I think should be pointed out. So. Another concern is getting aftermarket parts. Now, most of them are going to interchange completely fine. For example, the lower receiver, the pistol grip, the stock, itself, those are more or less exactly the same. The one thing is basically the handguards. Now, if you guys notice, this actually does come with an M4 style handguard rather than an AR-15. Now, I do believe it's pretty evidently clear to me, at least, that it's so that they can pretty much fit the piston system in here. As you can see, this is the piston rod and the piston itself and all that. So in order to get it fit, I don't see how they could actually make it fit with an AR-15. Now, if I have to choose between an AR-15 handguard and an M4 style handguard, I actually like the AR-15 style handguards. These are a little bit thicker. It's not a huge deal, but they are thicker. I do have pretty big hands, but even then, I can't wrap my hand completely around the handguard like I can with an AR-15 style. And the AR-15 style handguards are a little bit sleeker. So, is that such a negative thing? Not really. I do intend to change this out, and that brings me to another point, that because it is a piston gun and it does have that piston rod there, you are going to be slightly more limited to what kind of aftermarket handguards you can use. Okay. Now, it's still very doable. There are enough of them out there that I think, you know, anybody could find a decent set of handguards that they like. Adams Arms, they actually do have a list of handguards that have been deemed compatible with their system up on their site. If you guys ever want to take a look, they do have that up there. So, and that's another great thing that I found about Adams Arms. You know, they seem to be understanding that we're probably going to want to change this out. You know, most of us. Some of us might want to keep it in, you know, that's fine, but at least the option is there. Now, the other thing about it is not all piston systems are the same. This piston system, for instance, because it is pretty much really quite sleek, actually. It is actually compatible with more piston, or it's more compatible with, I would say, a wider variety of handguards than other piston systems are. I know some of them, like the Alps 416, they're a little bit wide. And for that reason, they're actually a little bit more limited as to what handguards you can actually use. And, you know, since piston guns have been out for a little while now, I know, you know, some companies like Magpul, for instance, they actually have, you know, kept piston guns in mind. And that's why with their newer handguards, they have them cut so that it will actually fit around, you know, piston guns like this. So it's really, you know, of course, when they first come out, they're going to be a little bit of an issue. But as time goes on, you're going to see more and more compatibility. So I don't really see it to be a huge deal. And, you know, I've always been partial to the piston AR-15s. I've actually always wanted one. Had I known a while back that I could have gotten one of these for 600, I arguably would not have even thought of getting a direct gas impingement AR-15. Not to say whether that would or would not have happened. I do have one of each now, and I'm actually happy with them both, but for what it's worth, just my 2 cents. Now, other than that, this piston system itself, if you notice this portion right here, the actual piston, it works like a cup basically, and this portion is actually enclosed off. This is where the gas gets redirected. It comes up through a tap in the barrel, and it comes up and it goes to what would normally be the gas tube, but instead it's the piston, and basically it's like a cup, and it, you know, it hits the piston rod, which drives, you know, the bolt carrier group back, and that's what cycles the action. Now, if you notice, it is open and it's facing forward, and that's one thing I really do like about this system. Other, you know, piston guns, they actually direct the heat, you know, off to the side a little bit, or maybe downward to where your hands are. Not so much with this; it actually directs it straight forward. Now, that does get the gas block incredibly hot, so you do have to use metal sights if you're gonna, you know, well, everybody should have iron sights on, but I'm just saying that you can't even think about using plastic sights because they will melt. Okay, now up here you do see what is known as the gas regulator, and it has 3 different positions. One is for standard, the other is for suppressed, and one is for actually single shot, which I actually thought was pretty awesome. So if you guys want to put a scope on and, you know, maybe get, you know, a more accurate shot, I mean, that may or may not be a possibility. I just have a red dot on here that you guys are seeing, so I didn't really do any real accuracy testing, but anyway. Other than that, I think we just have to break this open here. Now, I would like to show you guys what's under the handguards, but these things are really just a pain to get off, so I'm not going to deal with it right now. So I may roll in a picture or something later, but for right now, it's just not something I'm going to do. But let's see if I can get this off here. There we go. Now, if you notice, this is actually under tension, the bolt carrier group, which I found pretty peculiar. Basically, the bolt itself is under spring tension. There's actually a spring around here that is over the bolt. So I'm not going to completely break it down right now. I may, again, roll in a photo, but I'm just not going to mess with it right now. Now, I do think that this would aid in reliability as far as, because this star chamber itself, you know, it can be kind of finicky when it comes down to it, as far as, you know, reliably, perfectly fitting, because it is a precise design. It does require precision to function properly. And so for that reason, I do think that it was good that they added the spring here. But I do think it would work without it. Other than that, I mean, the bolt, it is marked on here. You can see it does have MPI. It is MPI stamped, so that's definitely a good thing. And the other thing that you guys will notice if you have ever dealt with an AR-15 is it doesn't really have a gas key. It actually has what's considered a hardened striking surface. And this piece right here is actually what hits what the piston is hitting, and it drives it back. So the piston comes back, it just knocks this surface and knocks this back. Okay, so a little bit of a different design. It does require that you have a proprietary, you know, bolt carrier group for that reason. So Now, I know another concern for you guys is carrier tilt, okay? And that is somewhat of a valid concern. Now, I haven't fired too many rounds through this, but if you guys notice, if I will show you the buffer tube here. Basically, I see no signs of carrier tilt whatsoever. Hope you guys are getting a good angle on that. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any signs of carrier tilt whatsoever. There's no real metal. I see a little nick there, maybe. I think here, yeah. No, I don't think so. Just I don't know if it's just a little mark, but I don't see any extreme signs of wear and tear on it. Now, even if that were the case, the buffer tube, I mean, it really doesn't have anything to do with operation. It's just something for the buffer to go into, and as long as that's going to, you know, fit in, then it should be fine. So I don't see it to be a major problem, even if there were metal shavings, you know, coming off. It's not a huge deal. It's more of one of those things, keeping the gun looking nice. But yeah, overall, guys, I'm really happy with this system. I do intend to, you know, upgrade it a little bit more, add a few things, you know, change out the furniture mainly. Other than that, I'm incredibly happy with it. I forgot to show you. The only thing I probably would have changed about this, because I am happy with the barrel in general, but this model does not have, see if I can get a good shot here, it does not have M4 feed ramps, just your standard AR-15 feed ramps. Now, are M4 feed ramps necessary? No, they're not. But would I prefer to have an M4 feed ramp over not having them? Yeah, absolutely, I would. Okay, just to have them. I mean, just for that added level of, you know, possible reliability. I mean, it's very debatable, but I would rather have them than not have them. But other than that, I mean, this is pretty much your standard M4 barrel, M4 profile barrel. This is the 16-inch barrel, not a 14.5, but it's the same profile as your standard M4, and the difference being that it is nitride finished, and it does come with a 1 in 7 twist, which if you guys did watch my other video on the AR-15 that I put together, that is my preferred twist rate, is a 1 in 7. Some people are worried about overstabilization of lighter rounds. You know what? I only fire 55 grain pretty much so far. I'm not saying I wouldn't get heavier rounds, but 55 grain is going to be your most common and most of the time your most inexpensive round. So that's pretty much what I stick to. So I've fired 55 grain ammunition out of this, as well as, you know, my direct gas impingement model. I do not see that to be a problem in any way. Okay. I think 55 grain ammunition is fine out of a 1 in 7. Any lighter than that, I can't vouch for it because I don't have any experience with it. I do not get lighter ammunition than that. So, but I do not see it to be a problem. Now, on the flip side, a 1 in 7 will stabilize heavier rounds. So that's pretty much, I wouldn't want to go any lighter than a 55, but I would consider firing something as, you know, for example, Black Hills 77 grain ammunition, something like that. I would definitely consider. But yeah, again, 1 in 7 twist and a nitride finished barrel, which in my opinion, if you're talking about a defensive carbine, is in my opinion the best you know, finish that you can have on a barrel is nitride. I mean, it seems to be more durable than chrome and actually maintains more accuracy. So, you know. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys like what you've seen. If you guys are thinking about getting a piston gun, you may want to look at Adams Arms. They seem to be, you know, pretty decent builds, and you can get them for, you don't have to pay like $2,000 to get one. I know a lot of these models are, I mean, realistically, guys, I mean, it's just a metal rod that's going back. I mean, there's no reason to pay $2,000 or $3,000 for one of these things, I don't think, unless you get some extraordinary features that you're really just willing to pay that much for. But anyway, guys, that's it. I mean, just pretty much a first look at this thing. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. All right, so later.